Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Solo Leveling Season 1, Episode 3, It's Like a Game. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happens in the episode. So the episode begins with Sung Jin-woo waking up from having passed out after the statues came and attacked him, and he got his message up in the air about, become a player or your heart's gonna stop. And he finds Woo Jin-chul and King Tae-shik next to his bed, and they basically give him an update on the fact that there were 6 survivors from the dungeon, that when the rescue team arrived, it turned out that the dungeon had already disappeared, and that they would have been suspicious of the survivors, except they did find the body parts of those who died there laying around, and it was clear that they were dungeon injuries, I assume. He doesn't expressly say that, but there would be no other reason why they would then, stop suspecting potentially the hunters involved. And that they suspect the reason that Sung Jin-woo would have been able to survive and have his limbs regrown and all of his injuries, at least the physical ones, no longer there, is that he may have reawakened, which is a process by which a hunter who had awakened at a lower level can sometimes reawaken, and that is the only way, at least that is known currently, for a hunter to become stronger than their initial awakening. They test his mana, however, and it has not changed, so they then leave, and Sung Jin-woo is left disappointed. However, he does wonder why they didn't comment on the fact that there is a screen in front of him saying that he has some new messages. His sister then arrives. He says, "Oh, you used to play games before, the whole hunter thing happened. How do you check messages?" And she then tells him to open his mailbox. He then opens it, sees a couple of messages about, becoming a player, and that he has a quest preparing to become strong when he opens it after his sister leaves. It's a lot of exercise, and he's a patient, so he decides he's just going to ignore the system, despite the fact that it does tell him there will be a penalty should he not complete it. And of course he doesn't. There then is a penalty, and he is transported for 4 hours to a desert full of centipede-like monsters he has no hope of winning against, and he basically just has to run and survive. He manages to, returns to the hospital room, and diligently completes his quests going forward, learning that when he completes quests, he does get rewards in recovery, stat points, and then random reward boxes. He does make a note to say that he's been getting random items like pens and bandages. However, then he opens one, presumably after a time skip, and it is a key to an instant dungeon, which is at one of the subway stations. So after he presumably waits another few days, he decides to go to this instant dungeon, and he enters. Upon entering, the exit is blocked, so he has no choice but to face what is within the dungeon. And the first thing that he faces are some goblins, which he has a lot of hard time with, especially given that at the beginning of episode 1 he was stabbed by a goblin, so now he's facing the goblins again, and he does have trouble, but he does manage to kill all 3 of them. However, just as he defeats all 3 of them, in comes a steel-toothed lichen, and that he does not have as good of a chance against because the name is in a different color, indicating a higher level of difficulty. And that is the cliffhanger we end this episode on. So now that we've been reminded about what happened in the episode, we'll now rank the episode, and as always, we'll be ranking first on the mostly objective ranking list, followed by the personal ranking list. So we will start with our mostly objective rank values. To start off, we have a multi-episode supporting character introduction, and this is King Tae-shik, who comes with Woo Jin-chul to test if Sung Jin-woo is a reawakener, sorry, and he ends up, we as the audience know that he did It's just that he has to earn his strength, and so at the time that they test him, he does not appear to be a reawakener. That's worth 2 points. Then we have 3 points for multi-season supporting character development, and this is when we find out Park Hyung-hee, who is in the hospital, and Sung Jin-woo's mom, has something called eternal sleep disease, which is revealed in a flashback when Sung Jin-woo comes home after being tested as a hunter, finds his mother passed out, and it is explained that for some people they have very low resistance to mana, so being around individuals and places that have a lot of mana end up impacting them and making them sick and fall into essentially an eternal slumber. And to date, there has been no cure for it, which is why Sung Jin-woo then has to go through dungeons in order to gain money to pay the medical fees in order to keep his mother alive in her coma. That's 5 points so far. Then we have 4 points for the world building aspects. And first we have what second awakenings are and the fact that they exist in the world, which again is, in this world, hunters awaken and they don't level up, so whatever they awaken as is what they are, and they will never get stronger no matter how much they may go through dungeons and fight, etc. However, occasionally, someone can awaken a second time, becoming a reawakener, and this then allows them to ascend to a greater level than they had been at previously, the only known way that they would grow. The second piece of world building is the system quests, the fact that there are penalties to failing quests, a penalty zone, that there are rewards for completing both quests and penalty quests, and instant dungeons exist. Basically all of that world building into Sung Jin-woo's new system and player information, etc., that there's stat points, all of it. Basically, I'm counting it as world building because it's an integral part to this universe's world. And that brings us all the way up to 17 points. And I only took 1 off for character regression. In the first couple episodes, despite his panickiness, his weakness, his overall patheticness, Sung Jin-woo is at least clever. He's clever enough to figure out the rules of the dungeon, to guide the other survivors through the dungeon and how to survive in it. And then in this episode, he basically is like, oh, I saw a message before I died. Here is a message. It's telling me things. It must be a hallucination, even though this is a world in which hunters exist, dungeons exist, and various gates exist, where reawakening can happen, where mana exists, where decides to ignore something that clearly tells him there will be a penalty and ends up running for his life for 4 hours. He's dumb in this episode, but in the previous episodes, he was considered to be clever, so it is a regression of his character, in my opinion, at this point, which is why I took 1 point for it, bringing this episode to 16. Highest score possible, however, is a 10, making this the third 10 out of 10 episode. And our season ranking so far is in episode order, because when more than one episode has the same score, we just rank it in the order that the episodes aired in. So first we have I'm Used to It, second If I Had One More Chance, and now in third place, It's Like a Game. Now my personal ranking. Favorite episode so far. We're finally getting to the parts that are exciting, interesting, fun, and why I watched the show. However, we're not quite there yet. First part, again, he has that regression, no longer clever. He does his panic patheticness, his weakness thing. You know, we do get a little bit more character development, flashbacks, what happened to his mom, how his mom ended up where she is in the hospital. We have world building elements, so there is interesting things happening. But again, he's still weak. He's still kind of pathetic. He still panics. He makes dumb decisions. And then he goes to the instant dungeon and he almost dies to goblins, which honestly I'm surprised he didn't because he was literally just like deflecting them. He wasn't doing any sort of initiative on attacking, although he does eventually manage that. Manage to get rid of the goblins, and then of course we have the lichen. So obviously, hope for the future is present. We are finally getting some action where he is showing signs of becoming stronger, but he's not quite there yet. And that is why I gave it a 6 out of 10, which is the highest score I've given so far, but it still has a lot. Not a lot. We're actually like really close to him turning the tides and becoming awesome. He's just not there yet. So 6 out of 10. It's like a game in first place, followed by I'm used to it, and then in third we have If I Had One More Chance. Bringing us now to the mostly objective, the series ranking so far, starting with the mostly objective ranking, which is 30 out of a possible 120. And then the personal ranking for season 1 is 14 out of a possible 120. But with that, we've now rewatched and ranked Solo Leveling Season 1, Episode 3. It's like a game. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.